Okay, today we are playing a game on Watchpoint Gibraltar. We are in the Gold SR range, and we will be playing mostly Tracer, though we do eventually play every Hitscan DPS. For a little bit, at least, though Tracer takes up the bulk of the replay. Our current team composition is Orisa, McCree, Bastion, Pharah, Mercy, and Moira. So it's very sad. It's very sad, basically, because we only have one tank, and the one tank is Orisa, which is woefully inadequate, as far as the front line goes. Orisa already not a very good frontline hero, and then she just has no other tank. And then we have a Bastion that we're also allegedly meant to protect somehow. So, it's less than ideal. Realistically, one of the DPS should change to another tank, such as Reinhardt, D.Va, Winston, you know, one of the main tanks. So anyway, let's just start the game. We're a little bit early, it's fine, we're getting in there. So Bastion's up there, we're gonna come over here, and, we're gonna get, driven off by an Ana, of, all things, because we can't quite shoot Ana from as far as Ana can shoot us, which is a little bit unfortunate for us. So, there is a Pharah in the game, we've learned, that seeing as we can see her shooting at us. There's also a Genji. So, there's a lot of things for us to deal with as McCree. Genji has already killed Mercy because he was up there and we couldn't really do very much about it from down here. It is usually worth, like, if, like, a lot of your team are hanging up out on top of the let's start that one again. If a lot of your team are hanging out on top of the container, usually hanging out up there is also worth, I mean, it's not actually a container, is it? Anyway, until they move down from up there, because it's not unusual for a Genji, or Tracer, or Pharah to just sort of, or even like a Hanzo or Widowmaker, to try and come through the doorway up there and try to kill the team. And if you're playing McCree, you know, you do have this obligation to try and protect the backline because you have hard crowd control. So I generally do not recommend that one jump down on top of the payload because you can just kind of get killed really easily for doing that. Some of our team were around, but usually it's better to get back here before the payload is there, because ideally, like, once the team starts taking it underneath, what you would do is rotate back over here, and then jump down before the payload gets up here, because then you can actually shoot from the top of the hill down at them, which is slight high ground advantage, and just harder to die, because then as they're pushing up towards you, you back away, and it just, like, eliminates the point of the part where you jump on top of the payload to get down here, really. So, a lot of our team are currently dead. It's okay, the spawn is right there, however, we've just been killed by Genji. So we are really low HP, we are at 90 hit points. There is a health kit behind us, and yeah, like, D.Va's diving over here, but it's a Bastion and a Moira. They should be able to deal with that by themselves, and you should back up and get the health kit that's behind you. Then, like, come through the doorway and start fighting again. Because you don't want to just be walking around in the open at 90 health because you die as a result of doing that. Because at that point, you're half a Tracer, basically. And you are a lot easier to hit as a McCree. Generally speaking, if you're playing any hero and you're, like, below 100 health, you should go and try to find health somewhere. So we should not do this because we're using our ultimate to fight over a point that we've already lost. We shouldn't even be up here anymore because, like, by this point, it's gone. And then we come up to fight. Don't do it. Don't bother fighting over an objective that you've already lost, and especially don't use your ultimate trying to defend a point that you've already lost. Also, thing with this map, specifically with Gibraltar, is if you're coming back to fight out here at all, just go up the staircase inside so that you can come out this doorway, because then you are on the high ground, and if you can control the high ground up here, the enemy team have a real bad time about it. Generally speaking, if you're playing McCree, Soldier, or Widowmaker, you want to try and control the high ground, because the high ground is fucking overpowered, and people do not value it enough. I do genuinely believe that if you play any of the Hitscan DPS, if you just focus on controlling the high ground as much as possible, you can get from, like, up to platinum, because people just don't appreciate how strong the high ground is. It's very strong. People don't value it enough. But yeah, don't bother fighting over an objective that you've already lost. So now we are going to change. No, we're not going to change yet. We do change. I swear this is mostly Tracer. Look, we can scrape along the timeline and I'll show you. Oh, look, there's Tracer's guns. We do mostly play Tracer. So we are shooting at this Farah. It's a little nitpicky, but try not to ever stand perfectly still while you're doing something. I know that you're focusing on trying to shoot the Farah, but still, don't stand perfectly still. Bob back and forth a little bit. Because it just makes it way easier to kill you if you're not moving. And I'm not saying like a Widowmaker is going to suddenly emerge out of the shadows and kill you in this game or anything, but it's something you can get punished for, so don't stand perfectly still while you're shooting. I know you're focusing, but... So they're using like 9 ultimates to take this objective, which means they get to take this objective, because that's just how this game kinda is, really. Farah tried her best, but then she got killed by Genji's barrage. They used a lot of ultimates to take that objective, so they get to take the objective. That's just kinda how Overwatch is. So we are fighting this Gongo over here. If you are in this kind of position, try and take that health kit out from under his nose. Like you're playing Soldier, you can sprint up to it, because you don't want him to pick up the health kit, because that can mean he gets away. Like here, he's fucked because he was performing an illegal maneuver, but if at all possible, you should try and like scoop the health kit out from under somebody before they pick it up, because otherwise they might live, and we don't want that. Don't use your Helix rockets trying to hit a Farah, because it's really hard to hit Farah with the Helix rockets. Just as just like a thing with Soldier, like use your Helix rockets as frequently as possible, because a lot of people sit on the Helix rocket cooldown for a really long period of time. Here's the thing with Soldier, is that his thing is just about doing as high of a consistent DPS as possible, as his thing is just a constant stream of DPS. And just using the Helix rockets, like, on cooldown will make you do more DPS. So just, like, throw them out there. Even if you're just shooting at, like, a Reinhardt barrier, just shoot the Helix rocket at it, because you want to break the shield faster every time you use it. That's 120 extra damage. Just, like, if you think you can hit something with the Helix rocket, hit it. Don't try and shoot a Farah with it, though. It's really unlikely to hit unless, like, you're really close to the Farah. And then it's better off you're usually just better off throwing it at, like, somebody else. People usually sit on the rockets because they're like, oh, I need it to finish somebody off. So they kind of it's kind of unlikely that you're just going to suddenly pick somebody off with the Helix rocket unless they already fucked up and were out of position. In which case, you probably don't need the Helix rockets actually to kill them. And because it's just damage that has no utility attached to it, it's not the kind of thing that's, like, gonna win you a duel, because the thing that wins Soldier duels is actually Biotic Field, not Helix Rockets most of the time. So, Genji's here. Genji's killed Mercy. Farah's dead. We've killed Genji. Feels good. Quite a lot of our team are dead right now. And we have to try and break the Reinhardt shield, because we're, like, the only one that can, but we also have to try and kill the Farah, because we're the only one that can. It's sad times. We don't defend this checkpoint, by the way. We play 4 rounds on this map. It goes a little bit back and forth. So we're trying to shoot the Farah, because we have to try and shoot the Farah. We have not yet killed the Farah. We are working on it. As long as we're trying, that's the important thing. Miraculously, we hit the Farah, like, right in the skull from a continent away. It's pretty incredible, actually. So, Genji is now using Nano Blade, which means, we're gonna die. It's just how it is. There's nothing we can do about that as Soldier. Maybe if we have Tac Visor, but honestly, if Genji's coming at you with, Nano Blade... Fuck, if Genji was coming at you with Nano Visor. If Genji's coming at you with Nano Blade, you probably die regardless. It's just like... Nano Blade is one of the strongest ult combos in the game. And then we run up to try and touch the point, because, you know, it's that phase of the game. You could try and stay back, because there are people already touching the point, because we have Tac Visor, so we really want to use that. But, like, yeah, we're pretty fucked. We don't defend that checkpoint. You know, we're not really meant to in that position. So now we commence playing Tracer. I swear to you, Tracer does take up the majority of this replay. I have pushed a button I wasn't allowed to push, and now we've gone back to the very start. I tried to push the forward arrow key, and I pushed 0 on the numpad, so it went back to 0. So, Gibraltar is a bit of an awkward map for Tracer because there's quite a lot of vertical mobility to be made. Genji is usually better, but we can do this still because Tracer can do that. Don't, try not to ever be completely out of blinks, because when you are completely out of blinks, you are suddenly way more vulnerable. You always want to have one, at least, in the back. You do also always want the cooldown ticking, so you don't want to ever be walking around with 3, just doing nothing. But you don't want to ever be completely out of blinks either, because then you can be, really easy to kill. Or you usually have to use recall. So we use recall right there. It doesn't really do very much of anything, and we have to use all of our blinks to run away. Because, the enemy team isn't looking at us, we can play this more cool, because they don't know we're there, right? So, we can take as much time as we need. We can just kind of hang out up here for a minute and wait to see if, Moira starts backing up away from the team, and then we can, or maybe Anna starts backing away from the team, and then we can jump down and try to kill them. We don't need to jump in immediately because they haven't seen us, so waiting an extra second for their team to spread out a little bit more might be more beneficial. So you don't generally want to try and get into a fight with Genji as Tracer, because it usually ends up being a big waste of time. There are certain matchups in the game that are just generally not worth dealing with, which is Tracer versus Tracer, Tracer versus Genji, Genji versus Genji, because it's in the best case scenario, yeah, you kill the other person, but it will have taken such an extremely long time that it's not really worth bothering. And it's just kind of one of those things where, the Genji can always leave. One Tracer can always just decide to leave, so it usually ends up just being a big waste of time for both parties and not worth bothering with. Pharah versus Pharah also tends to end up being a waste of time. Genji is, right behind us in low health, but then we end up blinking in the path of, we get really salty about healers in this game. So now we're gonna change to Widowmaker, whom we have a gold gun for, so that's cool. It looks really fucking big when it's gold. So we've killed Pharah, because she wasn't allowed to be doing that, so she's fucking dead now. And, yeah, we do, a lot of switching in this game. So here's Genji. Genji's coming. You know Genji's gonna come for you in this situation, because, he has seen us, and he wants to kill us because he's playing Genji. So just, chuck the Venom Mine down, because, he's always gonna do that. He is gonna come to you. And maybe if you put the Venom Mine, he decides that he isn't gonna come to you. If he does come to you, he gets hit by the Venom Mine, and then that's a lot of Genji's health just for free. But he ends up fucking up anyway, because he uses Deflect, then dashes up to us, but then we just jump down, and he's like, oh fuck, and then he just ends up dying, because he used all of his abilities to try and get to us, but then he didn't really kill us very well. So, yeah, we take this we get over to the end of the track pretty quickly as well. We play 4 rounds on this map, and yet it's still only a 19-minute video. Isn't that incredible, Because if you go 4 rounds on Hanamura, for example, God, it's days. You're there for actual weeks of your life. It's terrible. But that's also just kind of 2 CP maps in general, Everyone loves the 2 CP maps. Oh, don't we just? So there's a Reinhardt in the way, so it's kind of hard for us to do very much right now as Widowmaker. I'm going back because I wanted to check something. So here's advice you give somebody when they're playing against Reinhardt, which is that you aim as if his shield wasn't there. And I'm not just saying ignore Reinhardt's shield, because you kind of can't usually do that. You do have to try and break it. But, if you're playing someone like Widowmaker, just, hover over the Moira's head, or the Anna's head, and then just, as soon as you see the barrier go down, dead. Dead. Most people just sort of aim generically at Reinhardt, or at the shield in general. But what you really want to, and this is true of any hero that's got any kind of precision, even if you're playing soldier and you're just shooting the shield, just aim as if you were shooting these people, because then if the barrier goes down, you kill them. Which might sort of be what we were doing, but it didn't look like we were really tracking them. So they are now in the Graviton. We're being attacked by D.Va. We're up here now. We've got our ultimate, but now isn't really the most productive time to use it because we're being chased around by D.Va. We end up using it anyway. The thing is with Infrasight, is that you want to use it really to try and pick somebody off, and we're getting chased around by D.Va, so that's going to make it difficult for us. Also, Zarya just used Graviton, so most of the team are just kind of bunched up in one location that we can see anyway, if we weren't getting chased around by D.Va. So, it ends up not being a very productive time to use Graviton. To use Infrasight, Jesus fucking Christ. Other thing, we have left our Venom Mine on top of the shuttle, and it is doing exactly nothing up there. So, we might as well just chuck it into the enemy team at this point, because Venom Mine into the enemy team ends up doing quite a lot of damage. Because it hits everybody that it explodes on for, like, guaranteed damage. Like, just chucking it into the enemy team during a fight adds a lot of damage, and then you end up building up Infrasight really quickly. Because it already charges pretty quickly, just by, like, how Widowmaker is. And then, the Venom Mine helps. So here's Genji, and Genji just sort of appeared out of nowhere and killed us. Might be able to have listened for him coming, just, like, look around more. I'm not going to go back and comb through it to see if we saw him, but, like, if you're playing Widowmaker, surround sound is, very helpful. Because also there's the, train of thought that you should use Venom Mine to watch for flanks and things like that. You can just listen for that, right? You can just listen for somebody coming up behind you, and then you can just use the Venom Mine for more damage, which is, in my opinion, the best use for Venom Mine, because it is basically guaranteed damage. So, we have gotten this checkpoint. We spawned back there, which is very sad. We have to do the Walk of Shame, but we're playing Tracer again, so it doesn't take too terribly long to get back up here. They're hanging out up there, which they shouldn't be doing because they've lost the checkpoint, so they should be regrouping at the top of this hill, but they're not. Bastion's now dead, because he was over there like a fool. So, we are having a bit of trouble getting in on them right now. The only person stuck in the Graviton with was Moira, and she can just fade out of it, so that doesn't really accomplish very much. They have a Winston, which is not really all that concerning to Tracer, because you can, like, kill Winston, it's no big deal. We did not push E quickly enough, and we ended up dying to Bastion. In general, blinking up to Bastion is not typically recommended unless there's some kind of distraction going on, because Bastion can very suddenly kill you. And you just gotta push E faster if you're gonna go for it. Though, blinking up to Bastion, if he knows you're coming, is not usually a great idea, because then he can just sort of very suddenly kill you. So now we're gonna switch back around again, because we are now on the other side of Gibraltar. No, we're not. We're still doing the attack side, because we had less time when we got there. Aha, by 5 entire seconds. Look at that. Oh, it's pretty rare that you see a game on Gibraltar go 4 rounds, right? Because, like, there are a lot of places on Gibraltar that the attacking team can get stalled out, because you can get stalled out on the first checkpoint, the second checkpoint, and the third checkpoint, which is very unusual for a payload map, because usually there only tends to be 1 or 2 really good places, usually the first and last checkpoint. Gibraltar, you can actually, like, reasonably get caught on the second checkpoint and stall that as well. It's a very unusual payload map in that respect. Because you think about, like, Dorado, Numbani, Kings Row. I know Numbani and Kings Row are hybrid maps, but, like, the second checkpoint still, like, it's never where the game is decided, right? Like, it's always the first or third. Gibraltar is, unusual in that regard, because there's not many maps where the second checkpoint can be the decider. So we are more patient this time. We're doing a bit of crouch walking up to them so they can't even hear us coming. They wouldn't be listening in Gold SR realistically, but they could be. So here you should just use recall to heal up, and the reason is because you can kill Zenyatta probably, because he's really low HP and he's like segregating himself into that small room. So if you just heal up with recall, you can keep applying pressure to him and maybe kill him because he was low HP. Recall can be used aggressively, you know, for that kind of thing. Doesn't have to be used purely defensively. There is something to, like, going past them, fighting them, and then recalling so you're behind them again, even if you haven't necessarily taken any damage. So, their team is a little awkward for us because they have a Torbjorn, and Torbjorn's turret just will hit Tracer, so it's very inconvenient for us that there's a Torbjorn over there. So Moira's got her ultimate. We've almost got Pulse Bomb because that also charges up really quickly. So this is not really what Tracer is very good at, because we're just like sitting in this area, like trying to poke out over and over again. And we're not very good at doing that as Tracer. Like, she's not very good at, like, sitting in an area and poking and prodding, you're kind of, like, meant to be getting in there, trying to get on their backline and being aggressive. Like, you sitting in the doorway and just, like, peeking the corner over and over again is just, like, telling them where you are, and it's not really accomplishing very much. And also, like, really tiny area like that, like, McCree comes in there and he, like, throws the flashbang into the room. You'd end up dying or having to use recall. Just, you know, the Torbjorn's here. That's still inconvenient for us. Once you have Pulse Bomb, it's not so bad, because then you can always just blink up to the Torbjorn while he's at his turret, stick him, kill him and the turret, or make him use Molten Core as well, I suppose. So we end up missing the Pulse Bomb on the Zenyatta, which is very sad, because it would have killed Zenyatta or made him use Transcendence if he has it. And probably killed Moira, because she was really close to him as well. But we missed, don't miss, aim better, so on and so forth. So, McCree is very scary. We immediately back up. We shouldn't even really be trying, because most of our team is actually dead by that point. And we just don't want to get staggered and try and kill McCree. It doesn't end up happening. Like, it's still just really risky to do that while your team isn't there. Because if your team isn't there to provide any kind of presence somewhere else, like, the entire enemy team can just turn on you and try to kill you, so it's very risky. Here, McCree is overstepping his boundaries, because our team is actually regrouping now, and he's up here by himself, so he ends up getting picked off by us and Genji. And then Zenyatta's behind us, and he kills us, and it's very surprising for all parties involved. You can't actually listen for Zenyatta coming either, because he doesn't actually walk on the ground, so he doesn't actually make any noise. I would never in a million years expect that to happen, so, unfortunate. So, Reinhardt's overstepping his boundaries, but Moira's right there, so is Zenyatta, so we can't really do anything right now. This is, again, not what Tracer is good at, so we don't really want to be doing this, because we're just kind of doing nothing, and then could risk getting picked off right there, as we see, because we dropped her really low. Tracer is not good at trying to poke at people from range. Like, you want to be trying to, like, get behind them, or something similar. So we just sit around for a really long time, waiting to be healed. Just go pick up a health kit. Because you end up being not productive for a very long time, because you're sitting there spamming the healing button. Just, like, go get a health kit. Like, there's a health kit in there. Just, like, come over here. Just, like, pick up a health kit. There's no point sitting there spamming I need healing over and over again. Like, that just means you're not being productive. Like, go get a health kit. Because now your team have gotten over here, because you took the extra time just standing around pushing the button, your team are over here fighting, and you're only just getting here. And now Reinhardt is dead as we're arriving. Like, we just ended up not being productive, because we sat there pushing the button, and not getting a health kit. So by the time we get over here, we're already down a man in the fight. Whereas we could have just been over here fighting. So, their McCree is dead, which makes things less scary for us. However, Torbjorn's turret is still right there, which is sad also, because it can just hit us. It's very awkward for Tracer because of that. This is, again, not what Tracer is good at. We should be, like, trying to get to the back line and, like, similar such. Not, like, I get what you're trying to do. But, like, just don't bother trying to stick a tank, because it, like, unless you can definitely do follow-up damage to the tank, it doesn't kill any of them straight up. The only one it can kill straight up is Zarya, but that's scary for other reasons, you know? Like, she can just push shift. Just, like, try and stick the Zenyatta as well, instead, unless that's what you were going for, because it looked like you were aiming for the Reinhardt. Might have been trying to go for the Zenyatta, but, like, blinked a little bit out of place. If it was aimed at Reinhardt, don't bother trying to stick tanks. It's more for just, like, picking off a squishy really quickly. Because, like, it is more or less a guaranteed pick. I mean, we've missed a couple this game, but, like, theoretically it's meant to be a guaranteed pick. So, that's a very sad use of Coalescence right there. We're getting into this fight with Torbjorn. Little scary, because we can just suddenly die while fighting Torbjorn if he aims decently. And we have to try and touch the payload at this point, but we're low HP. Reinhardt just smacks us in the head, and we die, and now we're gonna change sides, because we, you know, the round changed over, so we changed sides. As you can see, there aren't 3 minutes left, well, almost 4 minutes left in this video. So, you can take that for what it's worth, you know. So we're gonna try and play McCree now. which is, they've had a Pharah at various points during this game, they've had a Genji at various points during this game, so McCree is probably going to end up being pretty good. So, someone was changing at the very last second, and as a result they are not here right now, which is sad, but they'll probably get here before anything really happens. Roadhog was not allowed to do that. Roadhog is now dead. We aren't really allowed to do that because we don't know exactly what the enemy team is yet. So, like, if something really scary comes up this staircase, you die. You know, you can just really suddenly die for going down this staircase when you don't know exactly what the enemy team is yet. So I wouldn't recommend it until you've seen, like, the entire enemy team. So they have a Bastion, which is, unfortunate, because we don't really have anything on our team that's particularly great at killing a Bastion. We've got a Junkrat, but, like, our team are kind of killing themselves over here. So we, like, want to jump down over here and, like, start, or, like, wait for them to push under us and start shooting the Bastion. You can see your team are contesting the payload. Like, even though you don't, like, we don't want to fight over there on this map, that's not really how we play this map, but, like, you can see your team are contesting the payload, that means they're fighting over there, that means you have to go and fight over there. Like, we end up just sitting around not doing anything for a while, and, like, now we're not really doing anything because there are a bunch of shields in the way, but there's not overly much we can do about that as, McCree. Yep, that's the hero's name. So, Junkrat managed to get his ultimate and actually kill Bastion, so that's great. Because now Bastion's dead. However, most of our team are dead also, so it doesn't really gain much for us. We have a very slight spawn advantage right now, but only by, like, a second. It's not anything overly large. So we're going up here to try and, like, get behind and shoot at them. Ends up, like, taking a large amount of time to get around here. Oh no, here's Bastion. I don't recommend doing it. Like, yeah, you end up behind them, and, like, because you're behind them, you, like, get to shoot this person. But you could have just shot them over from over there, and, like, this is just a bad place to stand as McCree, because think about what happens. Like, even assuming Bastion doesn't, like, just pop out behind us and kill us, right? What if just we have to retreat, right? What if anything causes us to need to retreat? Our options are go down here and go past their entire team, as McCree, which is bad. Go down this way, but the person who is probably killing us will probably be over here anyway, so that's not really an option. Or go into the server room, which just takes a really fucking long time to do with no mobility. So, like, I don't recommend coming up here. In general, as McCree, you don't want to try and do any kind of flanking at all, and, like, this is flanking, basically. Because he's really bad at it, and if you end up in a bad spot, you end up dying because you can't really retreat very easily as McCree, and he's just not that great at flanking. Don't recommend it. Just stay over there shooting at people. Like, this happens, and that's very sad, but, like, there's other reasons you can die than just that. So we lose the game, which is very sad, and we don't get to see the play of the game also, which is very sad. So, there were mostly a lot of smaller things that stand out in this game rather than a large thing. I will I'll say generically positioning was like the biggest thing, because when we're playing the Hitscan heroes, we're not really trying to control the high ground that heavily, which is pretty important. Like first checkpoint Gibraltar defense, we don't make any attempt to control the high ground, which we really want to. There's a lot of, like, just hanging around at the front as Tracer, just kind of, like, hanging around in places where we aren't really doing anything. So I'll say just, like, generically, positioning was the biggest thing, but that can mean a lot of things, so it's a very wishy-washy answer. It was mostly a lot of smaller things. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.